Well, as we move forward, we're going to shift gears a little bit. Now we're going to talk a little bit about deregulation and tax incentives impacts on supply chains, import costs. Manufacturers are having to adapt rapidly. This is in addition to artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and workforce shortages. Montana's manufacturing industry ranks second among based industries, and their success is important for our economy. For more on how Montana manufacturers are adapting in this new environment, please help me welcome Montana Department of Commerce Director Marta Bertolio, President of Wood's Power Grip, Brian Wood, and Director Patty Fleming with the Montana Manufacturers Extension Center. To the stage.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I heard these guys were already introduced, so I'll skip that part. I'm Marta Bertolio. I'm the director at the Montana Department of Commerce, and we're here to discuss policy impacts on manufacturing in Montana. According to the Bureau of Business and Economic Research at the University of Montana, manufacturing remains a cornerstone of the state's economy, generating more than $2 billion in base labor earnings. It is clearly a key driver in Montana's economy, and I look forward to our discussion today. First, could you please give me your background, your organization, number of people you serve, whatever you'd like to tell me about your organization. Let's start with you, Patty.
Thanks. My name is Patty Fleming, and I run the Montana Manufacturing Extension Center. We have 12 employees. We're part of the College of Engineering at Montana State University. We have 6 remote offices across the state. Our employees tend to be engineers with MBAs with 25 years experience running manufacturing facilities in the private sector. We're partially funded by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, partially funded by the state legislature. We are a unique federal program in that all of our customers, clients, get surveyed after we do work for them. So far, since 2000, our customers, through an independent third party, say that we have helped them generate or create or retain $1.7 billion in sales, $451 million investment that they did after it, and $228 million in operating costs, and finally 8,565 jobs created or retained in Montana because of our services. Our first client in 1996 was Westpaw. Westpaw at the time had the owners working out of a garage, and they are a very successful company to this day. One of our oldest and favorite clients is Wood's Power Grip out of Laurel, Montana. We started working with Woods in 1998. We've done 19 projects with them. I looked through the projects yesterday. They include strategic planning, marketing, supply optimization, operational efficiencies, quality management system, energy use reduction, and automation. That's what MMEC does. We kind of act like consultants. All you have to do is call us, and we'll come running and give you a quote.
Thank you very much. That was very extensive. I appreciate that. On to you, Brian.
I see a lot of familiar faces out there, but for those of you who don't know me, Brian Wood with Wood's Power Grip, and I forgot how much help we need as a manufacturer, but I'm sure there's more that we'll be needing in the future too, Patty. But we are a family-owned and operated manufacturing facility in Laurel, Montana. We have about 125 employees. Our primary product line goes towards materials handling, with our specialty being like industrial gripping devices or basically suction cups that are used for handling smooth, non-porous surfaces. Our biggest industry is the glass industry. We make all kinds of lifting devices for glass, both in the processing and throughout the installation processes. So that's kind of Wood's Power Grip in a nutshell.
All right, thank you. So this question is for Patty. Let's talk about manufacturing in the state as a whole. We don't tend to think of Montana as a manufacturing state, but there's a lot of great work in Montana. Could you please give us an overview?
Sure, I guess I'd like to start out with asking everybody in this room, find something in this room that was not manufactured. There's two things in this room that weren't manufactured. That's the tap water on the table and the human beings. But everything else, including this building, was manufactured. So almost everything you've ever purchased in your life has been manufactured. Montana manufacturing is doing amazingly well. It's got one of the highest growth rates right now in the nation of any state. We currently have about 5,500 manufacturers in the state of Montana. Many of them are very small, but each one of them has the potential to grow to a very large economy adder to the community. So Montana's doing very well. Since 2017, we have seen an 80% increase in the number of manufacturers in the state of Montana. And why is manufacturing important? It has the highest employment multiplier of any industry. So for every manufacturing job in Montana, UMBBR calculated out that in Montana, one manufacturing job creates 2.63 jobs elsewhere in Montana's economy. If you think about that, if we built a factory out in the middle of nowhere, eventually we're going to need a store, we're going to need a restaurant, we're going to need a hospital. So over the good things too, over the last 30 years, we've seen a lot of big corporations come in and buy privately held Montana manufacturers. And a lot of times you'd worry about that because you think, well, they're just going to pull the business and the manufacturing out and go out of state. Fortunately, in Montana, we have not seen that. They have all stayed here, and that's an amazing testament to the Montana workforce and the Montana economy. In Montana, shipping is always an issue for manufacturers. We just do not have the people that consume the products here, so we're going to have to ship out. And so we have to be more competitive on our costs because of our shipping costs. But given our raw materials in Montana, as far as our ag products that we produce, that's where the future is for Montana, partially, is value-added ag. We produce enough raw materials, agriculture-wise, to feed the whole country, and we don't process much of it here. I think in Montana we still have issues that we have to work on for manufacturing. We survey our clients, and some of the big issues that they tell us that they're struggling with, number one is employee recruitment and retention. That's our number one issue. And underneath that, you can put in housing and childcare, because that affects the employee recruitment and retention. Second biggest problem Montana manufacturers are facing is ongoing continuous improvement. They have to be cost effective. They have to cover those shipping costs. And the third thing they tell us is they need to identify new growth opportunities, ways to expand their business. So in the past few years, we've seen some shutdowns in the state with our wood products industry, and yet we're also seeing so many of the other companies in Montana looking to expand and grow their business. We do have some angst in the state about the tariffs. It's a very uncertain situation for most of them right now. Most of them right now we think are just sitting back with let's wait and see what happens attitude. Manufacturers are pretty reluctant to invest in a new facility if it's based on tariffs, and they're not sure how long those tariffs are going to last.
Okay, thank you. We might touch on the tariffs a little bit later as well. Brian, what about Montana keeps you in Montana? What are the strengths to manufacturing in our state?
Well, what keeps us in Montana, I guess, is we just have very deep roots in Montana. We were started in Montana in 1964, and we enjoy the Montana lifestyle. We've never really explored moving out of Montana, so I couldn't tell you what the advantages are to potentially operating in other states. Early in my career, we did go through a move from northeast Montana up in Wolf Point, Montana, down to Laurel, Montana, which is about 300 miles. And I never want to go through that again. It was a nightmare. If you can imagine shutting down the whole operation. And at the time we had about 60 people, so we were quite a bit smaller. But still, you had to shut everything down, go down, you had to restaff and ramp back up in a short period of time because every day you lose is revenue loss. So that's something that maybe the next generation of my family, if they want to deal with, they can, but that's not going to happen while I'm still around. So lifestyle is a big reason why we stay in Montana. What's the strengths of being in Montana? Oh gosh, Patty touched on some of the real challenges with transportation and stuff, but we've always thought, you counter some of that with cost of living. Maybe we have a little lower cost of living in Montana than some areas of the country. That might not be as true as it once was, especially depending on where you're at in the state. But I think there still is an advantage for us there in most of the state. And one thing that we kind of overlook sometimes is just what we have in our backyard. And every once in a while we get the opportunity for a customer or someone to come in and visit us, and we get to take them out and share a Montana experience. And it just it reopens your eyes to the blessings we have right here in our backyard. And because for them it might be a once in a lifetime experience, and for you it's something you do maybe several times a year and don't really think that much of it. So what are the strengths of operating in Montana is just, I think, again, lifestyle and the blessings we have within our reach here in Montana.
Thank you. I very much agree with that. Okay, we're going to move on to artificial intelligence. There's a lot of talk about AI replacing employees and changing the way we manufacture. What can you tell us about AI affecting manufacturing in Montana and for your specific business? If you'd like to start.
So I don't really see AI in our area, maybe in our industry, replacing people in the near future. There's just such a pent-up demand for people, as Patty kind of alluded to in some of his earlier comments. That's one of our biggest constraints really is people. And so it'll supplement the labor force, and it's going to force some people to maybe evolve their services so that they can complement what AI is doing a little better. For example, I'll just take in our case, there was a time when we would spend a substantial amount of money translating documents, product manuals, product literature, stuff like that. Well, that cost has come down substantially because of AI. We're able to use AI products to do a lot of that work now. So that's just one example of how I think AI is going to reduce some of your costs, make you more efficient, but some other ways that we use AI, obviously, like a lot of you, is document generation. It allows you to so much more efficiently create letters, articles, whatever, if you just kind of get used to what you have to plug in there as far as the criteria you want included in your content, and then it'll give you a rough draft and you can work from there, usually saving substantial time. We also have an internal AI platform that we dump a lot of information into. So, it's something that our IT department just started last year, so they kind of started with their information, their procedures, their notes, because there's a lot of things that they only do maybe once a year. So then they got to go back and find their notes, and now they can just go into this AI platform, type in a question, how do I do this? And it'll do the searching, bring them back the answer. And we've also done that with our employee manual. So say an employee is like, how is my leave time calculated? They can just type a question in there, and instead of going through, paging through the manual and finding that, it'll come back and detail out all the different classifications, leave time, and how they're calculated. So that's something we're looking at doing in a lot of areas within the company. Our engineering, there's a lot of procedures for how drawings are supposed to be done, stuff like that. Our troubleshooting, put all our product manuals in there, all our troubleshooting notes that our service people come across when they're working with customers, so that in the future, if somebody else in the company runs into a similar question, they can just type that question in and supposedly quickly search through all the information that's related to that and help that person out. So I do see it making us more efficient. In the near term, replacing people, maybe not so much.
Okay, thank you. How about you, Patty?
I couldn't agree with Brian more. I see a future right now that looks like most AI is being used in the front office of manufacturing, and it's just as it would be in any other type of business. When it comes down to the production floor, we aren't seeing any use of AI really in the production floor yet. There is no product you can buy. You're going to have to pay to develop an AI product for the production floor at this point. At this point, AI is as dumb as it's ever going to be, and it is as expensive as it's ever going to be. So if you want to be the front runner, the early adoption guy, it might be for you, but for the rest of us, maybe not. MIT just released a study and is showing that in manufacturing, there's been almost zero return on investment for AI in manufacturing at this point. So I just want to completely agree with Brian.
Okay. Thank you. Now let's go into a little policy. There's a lot of talk about property taxes and some chatter about a sales tax. Manufacturers would likely be affected heavily by sales tax. Patty, could you please talk about how a sales tax would be helpful or harmful to manufacturers, whether it be business to business manufacturing or business to consumers?
First, I would say that most of our manufacturers in Montana are business to business. They are supplying another business. And depending on how the law would be written in Montana, they would be exempt. So if you're selling a machined part to somebody else, you're not going to be paying sales tax on it. You're also not going to be paying sales tax on your raw materials. It's the consumer that's going to pay the sales tax. Now, Brian's business, you do sell to the consumer occasionally, right?
We're mostly through distribution.
Okay. So those that do sell to the consumer, Red Ox out of Billings is a good example, Westpaw, they are going to be tasked with collecting and then paying the sales tax. So there will be a cost there in implementing that, adjusting your software, paying the tax. But it will possibly make some of the Montana manufacturers a little less competitive in pricing if they have to add the sales tax. But other than that, I don't see a big effect, but I'll change it over to Brian.
Devil's in the details, buddy. Obviously, if you just added a sales tax into the current tax structure, it's going to add cost. Like Patty said, most of our stuff goes through distribution, so it'd probably be exempt at that stage from sales tax. We do some sales directly to consumers, which of course we'd have to implement something for collecting that sales tax and paying it into the state and stuff like that. We would have to, I assume, pay sales tax on any consumables we use, which is quite a large expense, really. Anything you consume in your manufacturing process beyond raw materials that actually go into the product. So there would be some additional expense, like I say, if you're just tacking a sales tax on. I don't think that's anyone's intention. Obviously, I think that they're thinking a whole restructuring of the tax system, which is going to take somebody way smarter than me to figure out. I mean, obviously, and I think there's a couple of them coming up later, Bob Story and a few others that are maybe going to tackle that in a little more depth. But obviously, property tax is something we'd like to see relief. And knowing this was coming up, I did kind of look back at what our property tax on our main property has done in the last 4 years. And it's not as drastic as maybe some of the residential stuff you're hearing, but our property tax went up about 38%. So that's still 10% a year. That's something that's hard to stomach year after year. And so at the same time, I thought, well, I'm going to look at what our valuation on that same property went up. And that was like 13%. And I was like, well, these numbers don't add up. So we dug into it a little bit further, and then we started looking at the mills. And our mills went from like, what was it, 612 up to like 739 or something like that. So that really brings it back to you that, you know, property tax is a local issue. So, I mean, to just bring a sales tax on board and solve the property tax issue is going to take a lot of thought, because somehow that money's got to filter back to the local communities to backfill, you know, that property tax expense. So again, hopefully there's some others that'll come up here later today that can address that in much more depth. But right now, you know, obviously without knowing the details, it's hard to really comment on how we'd be impacted by a sales tax.
Okay, thank you. This one's for Patty. What kind of legislation or policies have been passed recently that have been particularly helpful to manufacturing in Montana, and are there any issues that concern you?
The first one I would say is the business equipment tax that all manufacturers pay on the equipment they use. That's always a big issue, and all the efforts that have been done over the last 20 years to reduce that has been very beneficial to manufacturers, and especially the startup ones. Recent automation loans that the Montana Department of Commerce had for manufacturers as low-interest loans was a resounding success. Montana's very far behind when it comes to automation, and this really gave a bunch of them the spur to get going in that arena. There's been recent apprenticeship incentives that could help manufacturers. The chamber worked on product liability. This, as far as I know, hasn't hit any Montana manufacturers, but had the potential of doing so and could have been very devastating. And then I think also the work that the chamber did on the held case and CO2 emissions and how they were quantified was very helpful. Everything we do in manufacturing can somehow be traced to whether CO2 emissions, and so that could have been very devastating to manufacturers that were looking to expand. Coming up, I think in the future, I think three of the biggest things for Montana manufacturers are going to be housing costs, which affects their ability to get employees, childcare, same reasons, and healthcare, same reasons. So any solutions that the legislature could come up in those three arenas would be greatly appreciated, in my opinion.
All right, as promised, let's talk tariffs. Lots has been made about tariff impacts on manufacturing, both for reshoring business and for increased costs to manufacturers. For both of you, how have you seen these tariffs play out? Would you like to go? If at all.
Tariffs seem to be a story that are being written on the fly. I could tell you so far I don't like the story because, you know, we spent a lot of money, unanticipated expense on tariffs last year, and we don't really import a lot of product, especially from China. There are a few specialty items that we do directly import from China. We do import some stuff from Taiwan. Taiwan, 20% big deal, right? Well, no, not if it's a metal good. And we do a lot of aluminum castings, which are 50%. And so some of these invoices you get quite a shock with them. And beyond that, you also see a lot of surcharges. Anything you buy, any metal goods you buy, any electronics you buy. I was looking at invoice for some brass extrusions the other day, and it was a 20% surcharge. And these are big dollars because brass is expensive anyway. And these are from domestic suppliers. I'm not importing this directly. It's being extruded in the U.S. if you buy any electronics, like I say, you might buy it from a domestic supplier, DigiKey, whatever, whether it's a switch or a connector or relay, they're all going to have that second little line item now. It says tariff surcharge, 20+%, you know, and so you just, it's a lot of hidden costs, and this is not even counting the people who've raised their prices to accommodate their costs, their extra costs for tariffs. So I'm going to say in 2025, tariffs probably cost us, I mean, we didn't track it as close as I wish we would have, but you know, you just, it kind of was a weird start to tariffs, but I would say it's cost us at least a couple $100,000. Just when you start going back into all the surcharges, all the prices that have gone up, and you know, just direct tariffs that you've paid and anything you've imported. But you know, I also can see the other side of it, because we do have a primary product line that's been cannibalized quite severely by cheap Chinese copies. And you know, if tariffs were to level that pricing gap and we could gain that market share back, it would more than pay for, you know, the extra costs we've incurred for tariffs. But you know, China is so woven into our supply chain, you know, the fabric of our supply chain, that it's going to take some real stick to it with the tariff thing. I mean, it can't be that as this story is being written, 2 chapters down from now, Trump says, well, China promises not to send any more chemicals to Mexico to make fentanyl, so tariffs are off. You know, he's got to actually stick to it, and there's going to be a lot of political pressure on him not to, because there's a lot of people that, you know, rely on products from Asia. So tariffs, ask me next year.
Okay. Okay. Do you have anything to add to that about tariffs? Anything?
I guess the only thing I would add is you heard Brian's story, and that's a typical story of tariffs. There is another story being told that, well, it's going to open up so much more business for companies to start making those products that were traditionally overseas. And yes, I do think that is a possibility. A lot of our machine shops may be able to start getting new business as people like Brian try to source within the state. But that takes a long time. And for a company to invest in the equipment and all the effort to get this new business and produce for this new customer, they need to have some certainty and predictability on that tariff. If it's only going to last 5 years, I'm not sure that I want to invest in that, hoping that I can pay off my machinery in 5 years.
All right, we have about 3 minutes left, and I really wanted to talk about workforce as a top issue among employers in Montana, and I actually wanted to talk to you, Brian, about your innovative approach to workforce issues by working with teachers. And could you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, I really have to give a lot of the credit to this guy next to me here, because MMEC started a program, I think, in 2022, and they've worked with our HR department. We're one of many companies that have participated. I don't know how many you have participating in the program now, but it's kind of fun for us too, because each summer for the last few years we've had a teacher come into our facility, and we kind of have them spend time in every department. So they might be in marketing one afternoon, and the next morning they might be in engineering, and then they might be in IT or sales or production. I mean, we try and give them a pretty good overview of what's involved with manufacturing, which is something that I assume they probably don't get to see, and hopefully this gives them some content that they can bring back and use in their teaching environment. So again, I got to give a lot of credit to MMEC for starting the program, but we do try and participate in that.
And I need to correct my friend Brian a little bit here. MMEC did not start that. We participate in it. We have to give credit to the Work-Based Learning Collaborative and Reach Higher Montana, who started it. So Yeah, very successful program. It's a great way to get a teacher to understand that there are amazing jobs down the road that they can at least tell their students about. When you talk about innovative programs now for workforce, American Chem at East Helena, just down the road here, implemented an apprenticeship program a couple years ago for beginning employees. It's a one-year program. And as a result, they have seen a 50% reduction in their employee turnover. And that is worth a lot of money to a company. So there's a lot of other examples throughout the state. In fact, I always look at Tony Rosanova's program of where he provided child care in-house. And I think a lot of companies look at that. And so that's an innovative way. Nowadays we're hearing it's probably better just to partner with a child care organization to help out your employees rather than try to start your own on-site. But Tony can probably give you all the details on that. So,
Well, we've run out of time, and I so appreciate your time today, and we don't have time for questions, so you'll just have to ask these gentlemen your questions outside of this. So I appreciate it, and appreciate your time. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys very much. We're getting ready to take our break, but I do want to spend just 2 minutes talking about our gold level sponsors: Berkshire Hathaway Energy Montana, Charter Communications, Fast Enterprise, Frontline Ag Solutions, Intermountain Health, Campgrounds of America, Marsh McLennan Agency, the Montana Hospital Association. I need AI to help my speaking. The Montana Secretary of State, Pacific Source Health Plans, RDO Equipment Company, and the Washington Companies. So for the next 20 minutes or so, please take a minute, stretch your legs, relax a little bit. We're going to restart at 2:15. So thank you guys.